Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're tackling something pretty core to business operations, processing supplier invoices. It can be a real headache.
Oh, definitely. So much manual work traditionally.
Exactly. So we've got this functional guide for SAP ERP looking at their automatic invoice creation, specifically in materials management.
Right, the MM module.
Our mission really is to figure out how this automation works, how it helps streamline purchasing and accounting for you, the listener.
Yeah, think about those piles of invoices.
Yeah.
Matching them up, getting approvals. We're looking at how SAP can automate a big chunk of that. Connect the docs automatically.
Okay, so before we get into the SAP way, maybe just briefly touch on the old way.
Yeah.
What were the typical sort of pain points there?
Well, accounts payable gets an invoice.
Yeah.
Then someone has to physically or digitally dig out the original PO, find the goods receipt,
Right.
compare everything line by line, make sure it all matches, then manually type it into the system.
Sounds tedious.
It is. And slow.
Yeah.
And honestly, prone to typos, keying errors, all sorts of little mistakes that can add up. Plus, chasing down approvals or discrepancies.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that bogs things down. So how does SAP, flip the script here? Our guide says it starts with the goods receipt.
That's spot on. It hinges on that moment. So when goods arrive against a purchase order, that's the MyGo transaction, following the order created in ME21N.
MyGo, got it.
SAP creates something called an article document, or EM document. It's basically SAP's internal record saying, yep, we received these specific goods against this PO.
Okay, so like a digital proof of receipt. What then tells SAP, okay, make an invoice now? Is it just automatic from there, or?
Good question. Not quite automatic out of the box. You need configuration. That's where the MRRL transaction comes in.
MRRL.
Yeah, that's where you define the rules.
Yeah.
You tell SAP, look for these kinds of goods receipts, check these conditions, and then automatically generate the corresponding invoice. It's like setting up the instructions.
And what sort of rules or conditions can you set? The guide mentioned quite a few options.
Oh, it's pretty granular. You can select documents based on company code, specific divisions or plants, the accounting gate you want to use.
Okay.
The actual EM document number, the fiscal year it belongs to, the specific supplier, the PO number itself, even down to the individual line item on the PO.
Wow, that's really specific control.
It has to be, right? Because different suppliers might have different agreements, or you might have different internal processes you need to match.
Makes sense. So you've pointed SAP to the right receipts. How does it decide what the actual invoice looks like? Does it just lump everything together?
Not necessarily. You've got choices there, too.
Yeah.
SAP can generate invoices grouped, say, by supplier. So one invoice covering multiple deliveries from that one vendor.
Okay.
Or it could create a separate invoice for each individual purchase order.
Yeah.
Or even for each line item on a PO, sometimes even based on the delivery note number.
So it's flexible. You can match how your suppliers bill you.
Exactly. That flexibility is key.
Now, implementing something like this, it sounds powerful, but maybe a bit daunting. What if you're worried about it going wrong? Is there like a practice mode?
Yes, absolutely. There's a test run feature built into MRRL.
Okay, good.
You can run the whole process. It simulates everything, shows you exactly which invoices would be created based on your rules, but it doesn't actually post any financial documents.
A dry run. Smart.
Yeah, it lets you check your configuration, catch potential issues before it hits the actual books. Very important.
So you do the real run. How do you know what happened? Did it work for everything?
SAP gives you a log, a protocol, they call it.
A protocol.
It details exactly which goods receipts were successfully invoiced. And, just as importantly, it flags any that weren't invoiced automatically and maybe why.
So it highlights the exceptions?
Precisely. That lets your AT team focus their attention just on the items that need manual review or intervention. Much more efficient.
Okay, so the internal side is covered. What about letting the supplier know? Does SAP help with that?
It can, yes. There's another transaction, MRM1. You can configure message determination there.
MRM1.
Right. So the system can automatically generate and send a notification, like an email or EDI message, to the supplier, telling them an invoice has been processed based on their delivery.
Proactive communication. Nice.
Yeah, it can cut down on supplier queries about payment status.
So let's zoom out a bit. What are the really big wins here? Why go through the effort of setting this up?
Efficiency is the headline. Big time savings. You're automating a huge chunk of manual work in purchasing and AP.
Less typing, fewer mistakes.
Fewer errors, definitely. Faster processing times, which can mean capturing early payment discounts, potentially. And it frees up your people from mundane tasks to focus on more value-added stuff, like resolving real discrepancies or analysis.
Sounds like a clear benefit, but like any automation, I guess there are things to watch out for, pitfalls.
The main thing is that initial configuration in MRRL. It has to be accurate. Garbage in, garbage out.
Right, the rules need to be correct.
Absolutely. And then ongoing monitoring of that protocol, that log file. You need processes in place to handle the exceptions it flags up. The system identifies them, but humans still need to resolve them.
Okay, makes sense. So just to sort of wrap up the core idea, this deep dive shows SAP's automatic invoicing is a really powerful tool. It links the goods receipt directly to invoice creation based on rules you set. And that seriously simplifies and speeds things up for purchasing and AP.
Exactly. It bridges that gap between logistics and finance automatically, letting the system do the heavy lifting for routine transactions.
And here's a final thought, maybe something for you to chew on. When you see how technology like this can automatically connect, a physical event like receiving goods to a financial document like an invoice, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How else are these automated information flows changing the game? Not just within a company, but between companies and their suppliers, their whole network. What other connections could be automated for, like a truly seamless supply chain?
That's a big question. Definitely food for thought.
It is indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.